Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I like the challenging nature of this question. I like how that because a lot of we have a lot of assumptions that a lot of us make on a regular basis, and this question is basically saying, "Hey, I hear what you're saying, prove it." So let's get into it. It says, "Hey Perch, enjoy the channel. Thank you for everything you do and all the videos you make." Everybody always says they're tired of Batman. They're sick of all the Batman comics. Why won't DC do things other than Batman? Even you, Perch, do solicitation videos. You do the funny Batman noise. It's very amusing. But at the same time, what is selling Batman? Consistently, the top chart comics are Batman. And consistently, everyone says that the publishers do not listen to customers, they don't listen to the fans, and they should do what the fans are asking for. Well, it seems pretty clear that the fans are asking for Batman. So, why is it then that everyone turns around and speaks out of the other side of their mouth and says, there should be less Batman, DC is killing things with Batman, stop doing Batman? Seems to me the customers would like even more Batman than they're currently getting. Why shouldn't DC convert to having 80% of their line be Batman? Isn't that giving the customers what they want? Of course, you can argue, and I'm sure you will, that if you do too much Batman, you will ruin the entire Batman franchise, and then people will buy less. And yes, that is true. However, feels to me like that saturation point is not there yet because people keep buying Batman. So therefore, why are we making fun of DC for doing exactly what the customers are telling them to do? Okay, okay, I see where you're going there. And look, I mean, let's be honest. We may not like all that Batman. I don't like all that Batman, but you are right. Batman sells, and you're also right. The note, and of course, it is going to be something I would say. If you do too much Batman, eventually you'll oversaturate. And if people are buying 10 Batman comics, they're going to buy 8 because you killed the golden goose. You did too much, and you blew it. And that's definitely a challenge. I would argue DC is probably there today. The question is really, for the moment, forget that they're Batman and instead go, are all these titles good quality titles? Are all these spinoffs a good idea? We've got a Robin's title. We have another Robin title. Do we like? Are these good quality titles? Are these stories that deserve all these books? I mean, we're cranking them out, but is that a good idea? I think that's a fair question, and I think several of the Batman books out there right now do not have the quality necessary to support them being printed. And that would be true if it was Batman. It'd be true if it was Wonder Woman. It'd be true if it was the Flash. It'd be true if it was the Creeper. You know, the book about. Yeah, never mind. You know where I was going to go with that joke. Um, there's too many Batman books from the perspective of it's very hard to figure out which are the important books, it's very hard to position them. I think the problem that I get into, or at least my perspective in all this, is that when you're selling a product, in this case, your DC Comics selling books, you should be able to have a very clear value proposition for each and every one of your books. It should be something that you can very easily communicate to your retailer, and your retailer can then communicate to your customer. And if you can have a very clear value proposition for all the Batman books that you're publishing, and the customers are able to respond to it and they're selling, then you're right. My personal opinion aside, they're publishing the right amount of Batman books. One interesting way you get into this is sometimes I play devil's advocate. I play the other side of this, and I say, I don't, if you say there's too many Batman books, are you saying that DC should not publish the upcoming, White Knight by Sean Murphy? Are you saying that they should not put that book out? And a lot of people I talk to are like, no, of course not. I'm really looking forward to that book. I definitely want to see that book. It's like, well, then there's not too much Batman, is there? Because there's a book that they're publishing that you are interested in. Now, again, that's a dishonest argument to some extent because it's we're not talking about a superstar artist on a book that is highly anticipated. We're talking about the 8 other Batmans. We're talking about a Jock Batman, and we're talking about a Batman by Kubert, and we're talking about a Batman set in the Dark Ages, and we're talking about a Batman teaming up with Aquaman, and a Batman teaming up with Plastic Man, and a Batman teaming up with a Batman from a different Batman reality. And I mean, so we're talking about a lot of different things, not just superstar books. If right now you said, hey, we're going to have 10 Batman books out right now, 10, you might say, oh, that's too many. You're like, yeah, but one of the books is going to be drawn by Jim Lee. One of the books is going to be done by Frank Miller. One of the books is going to be done by Greg Capullo. One of the books is going to be done by Sean Murphy. One of the books is we got Michael Mignola over to do one. One of the books is going to be by Todd McFarlane. I mean, pretty like you're like, okay, yeah, I got 10 Batman books, sounds good. You could quickly get there. I do think it's an interesting argument because you're also right. A very common talking point these days is, the publishers aren't listening to fans, and I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that's true. That they're listening to a weird subset of Twitter, or they're just absolutely. I think there's plenty of evidence to show that listening to fans is not a good skill going on right now by the publishers. However, I think you could argue, correctly, that one of the areas that they are listening to the fans on is Batman. But I think it's less they're listening to fans, and I think it's a lot more, they put out a Bat book and people buy it, and so they put out two Bat books and people buy it, and they're like, okay, we'll just keep cranking them out. And I mean, I think again, is it wrong for DC to do that? No, it's correct. DC should do that. That is what they should be doing. They should be steering toward sales. Absolutely. But it is, the whole thing is a tough argument because I think a lot of us, myself included, or myself most of all, even, we're looking at the current proliferation of Bat books, and we're saying this is going to all tip over. There's no way this holds. There's no way that that people just keep buying Bat books at this level. It's going, and we say that because we saw it happen to Deadpool. We've seen it happen to Harley Quinn to some extent. We've seen it happen to Wolverine for sure. We've gone through the years where these characters get so many books that it tips over. And I think a lot of people, or at least me, I'm just waiting for the moment when it tips. And suddenly it becomes very hard to sell some of these Bat books. And suddenly you're not going to sell the Bat book unless you're bringing a Sean Murphy or a Jim Lee or somebody who's highly desired to work on one of these titles. That's the challenge. I think that it's all fun and games until suddenly your easy ability to sell 6 books in the Batman family suddenly becomes you can sell 2 books, or the main ongoing title only sells if a really strong artist is on it. That was sort of the position that Batman was at when Greg Capullo, Scott Snyder went on the title. Batman certainly sold and it was fine, but the two of them brought a level of prestige to the book that elevated it and that got DC into a different positive position. And if they go back from that, if we lose that, or DC loses that rather, then they're going to have to pay some top dollar to kind of build up that run again. Capullo was on. I mean, what's funny is Capullo was on Batman for quite a large number of issues. I mean, it's almost hilarious today if you think about the run that Capullo had on the book, and you compare it to any comic run over at Marvel of an artist. Like, you get one artist on a book for that number of issues. I mean, you don't even get close to that today. I'm trying to think, has any publisher kept an artist on a book as long as Capullo was on Batman years ago? No, I can't think of any. It's just not the world that we live in anymore. But it is. Look, companies should listen to fans. Fans are absolutely telling the publishers, we're willing to consume Batman at the rate you're pumping it out. Where I think it gets into trouble is not necessarily Batman himself. I think it's all the Bat family books that are going to be trouble. Like, can you really sustain a Batgirls book? Can you really sustain multiple Robin books? Can you really sustain a you know, Jace Fox Batman book, and can you really like a Batwing book? By the way, as an aside, why not just call the new Batman Batwing? Is that really going to be a problem? You still got Bat in the title. You still run around in a Bat related costume. Is it really a drawback? I would love to see the sales if DC proudly went out with Batwing versus, I am Batman. It feels like it's kind of the Morales thing again. It feels like by insisting to call him Batman, you create channel confusion that hurts, maybe all of Batman. You get people who are going to stubbornly object to buying it because he's, quote, not the real Batman. So you get into that dumb fight that Marvel has going with Miles. And for what? Like, if you called the book Batwing, wouldn't you sell the same? Like, imagine a world where they said, here's Batwing, and we're putting Jim Lee on the title. Like, that book would sell like an insane amount of books. Why not try something like that? Wouldn't that be, wouldn't you do better sales and dodge a fight that you don't need to have? It seems strange to me. It seems like, again, you can do whatever you want. If you're the publisher, you're like, damn it, this is Batman. We're calling him Batman, and anyone who says he's not Batman is a racist. I mean, you could do that, but that's not leading to sales. That's not leading to much of anything. So, you pay, I don't know, who knows what you're paying Ridley, but I guarantee you he's more expensive than some of the other writers you have going on at DC. And but you're making you're making Ridley work harder for the same result, and have to dodge all these questions about not the real Batman, which just whatever. I'm not going to go down. I already did, I guess. But anyway, you're right. The fans are saying they'll buy Batman. DC's pumping out Batman. At what point will that shift and change? I don't know. Feels like soon, but who knows? Anyway, there you have it. That's thank you very much for the question. I appreciate the challenge there. That's how it should be. Thanks for listening.